Our next inductee into the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame is 6ABC's Walter Perez. During his collegiate days, Walter studied political science and economics at Duke University. He was also a scholarship member of the Blue Devils football team and helped the team bring home their 1989 Atlantic Coast Conference championship. After graduation in 1990, Walter began his distinguished career in broadcast as an intern at WFDU, a radio station of Farley Dickinson University. He then went on to co-host the popular morning talk show on WCTC News Talk Radio 1450 in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Walter also worked as the color commentator for the Princeton Football Radio Network for 5 years, alongside Tom McCarthy, who is now the TV voice of the Philadelphia Phillies. Walter made the jump from radio to TV in 1995, where he became an anchor and general assignment reporter for News 12 New Jersey. From there, he moved to sunny Florida and served as a reporter and weekday morning anchor for WPLG Local 10 in Miami. Walter eventually moved back north to anchor weekend mornings for NBC4 New York. Along the way, he's interviewed leaders and dignitaries from all around the world, including Presidents George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton and U.S. Senator Bill Bradley. He even held a live phone interview with Reverend Desmond Tutu during the first free elections in South African history. In 2003, Walter Perez joined the 6ABC family in Philadelphia as a general assignment reporter, weekend evening anchor, and Lehigh Valley Bureau correspondent. During his time at Action News, Walter sat down for one-on-one interviews with President Barack Obama and U.S. Senators John McCain and Pat Toomey. Walter has also accumulated numerous broadcast honors and awards, including an Edward R. Murrow Award for spot news coverage of the World Trade Center disaster, a New York City Press Club Award, a New York State Broadcasters Award, and 2 New Jersey Associated Press Awards. He was also named one of the most influential Latinos in the Delaware Valley by Impacto magazine. Now, please welcome Walter Perez into the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame.
By the way, I'm terrible at basketball. That's just fake news right there. But thank you so much for the honor. I'm very, very flattered. I'm nothing without my prompter, so excuse the notes. And if I shake while I'm giving this speech, it's because I'm freezing. I was sitting under the blower over there, and I'm freezing cold up here. But thank you. It's such an honor to be here. From the bottom of my heart, I say thank you to everybody involved. I thank you to the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia. I also want to thank everyone at the Channel 6 table who came out to support me. In seating order, give yourselves a round of applause. In seating order, my Assistant News Director, Christine Boley, Elizabeth Plyler from our front desk, Bernie Prezenica, my General Manager, who's a huge Duke basketball fan. And I really appreciate that, Bernie. I say that tongue-in-cheek. He hates Duke basketball. Maggie Kent, my newsroom buddy, my son Luke, my daughter Madeline, my son Will, my mom. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. My best friend and wife, Frida, my daughter Madeline. Thank you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it, and I'm very, very honored once again. Well, you know, it's been a hell of a ride over the past 30 years or so. I can't believe it's been that long. And I think back to the things that kind of shaped me and guided me in life, the things that really define who I am. And aside from my faith, which is the seminal thing in my life, the foundation of my life, the 2 things that really shaped my life and the direction that my life took were football and broadcasting. I want to tell you a quick story. My sophomore year, I was named a starter by my head coach at Edison High School in New Jersey. His name was Mike Wojcik. Woj was crazy. Woj was one of those old school coaches. He thought that withholding water during 2 days made you tougher. Like, that's how far back we go with Woj. And he was a screamer and a yeller, and I would run into hell with that man to this day. He was just one of the most inspirational and motivational people in my life. And there was one moment in particular with Woj that really set the pace for the rest of my life. It was my sophomore year. Woj only started 3 sophomores in his entire career coaching. I was the 3rd. I was starting a defensive tackle. It was right before the first game, 5 minutes before the first game. And I was terrified. I was up against a guy who was a senior. He was 6'1", 270. He looked like he ate nails. He was second team All-County the year before. And I was terrified. I was 14 years old and was wondering what I got myself into. Game's about to start. Woj is yelling and screaming. He's doing Woj's thing. He's jumping up and down, and everyone's jumping up and down. And I'm standing behind the pack with my hand behind my back like this with my head down because my heart was pounding out of my chest. Woj sees through the crowd of guys. He sees me standing there, and he breaks through. He walks up to me, and he's about this tall. He grabs me by the face mask, and he says, "Walter, I know you're afraid." When he said that, my eyes welled up, my throat clenched, because I thought he was saying, "Walt, I know you're afraid, so you can't play for me. Walt, I know you're afraid because I think you're a coward. Walt, I know you're afraid, you can't do this." But he didn't say that. He said, "Walt, I know you're afraid. Just fight like hell." And that became something that became, for me, kind of like a rallying cry, because I knew there'd be times in my life when I would be afraid. And when he said that, something inside me just kind of welled up, and it just kind of gave me the strength that I knew that I had in there somewhere, but I didn't know how to tap it. And at that moment, that was the direction that I took. And I said to myself, football is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Clearly, that didn't work out. So with a couple breaks and with no experience at all, I got my first job at WCTC in New Brunswick. And my first news director was a man by the name of Bruce Johnson. Bruce Johnson was my Woj of broadcasting. Bruce taught me everything. I went in there and I didn't know anything about broadcasting. It was literally just with a couple good contacts that I had, I was able to get this job. And Bruce never let up on me. Incorrect English. You're burying the lead. You wrote this incorrectly. It's too long. This is radio. You're not writing a thesis paper. Shorten it down. And time went on, and I got better and better and better. And it was about 6 months in, and Bruce said, "All right, Gordy, the morning anchor, is off tomorrow. He called in sick. You're anchoring." I'd only anchored once before, and I was only for 15 minutes. I was going to do the whole morning show by myself on radio. And I was terrified for the second time in my life. And the next morning, I woke up at 2 o'clock. I got there early. I went on the air. I nailed it as much as I could. Made some mistakes here and there, but I did pretty darn good for my first time. And back then, you had to actually write the whole show for the noon person coming in. In radio, we didn't have producers or writers for ourselves, and we had typewriters before computers. And I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. I must have written 60 stories. And the noon anchor came in. I went home. I came back the next morning at 9 o'clock, and there was a note on my typewriter. And Bruce said, "Walt, outstanding job yesterday. You're becoming a fine reporter." And once again, it was just another person who in my life believed in me and gave me the direction and took the time to say, "You did a nice job, brother. Keep it going." Absolutely. And I said to myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. News radio. A few months later, a guy by the name of Roger Cohen walks by the newsroom at the radio station. Roger Cohen was the dean of the broadcasting school at Rutgers. I didn't know anybody at Rutgers, but he came in to do a PSA because our radio station was a flagship station for Rutgers sports. Kid you not, this is how I got into television. He walks by the newsroom, he sees me. He walks in, he says, "Who are you?" And I told him my name. He says, "You should be doing television. You should get out of radio." And I said, "Well, I like radio. I want to do radio for the rest of my life." He goes, No, you should be doing television." So I said, "I don't want to do television. I want to do radio." So he goes, "Okay." And he walks out, he records his PSA, and he leaves. 1 year later, he comes back to do more PSAs for sports. He sees me again. He walks in, he goes, "You're still here? What are you doing here? You should be doing television." And I said, "I like radio. I don't want to leave radio." He gave me his business card. He said, "Call me tomorrow morning at 8:30. So I did. I call him up. He gives me these instructions. He said, "Go to the Piscataway Township, New Jersey Municipal Building. They have a TV broadcasting workshop that they have there. They'll teach you how to do the trade. They'll even let you record a couple things that they'll air on their municipal station." So I said, "Okay." So I went there. They taught me everything. They taught me how to shoot. They taught me how to edit. They taught me how to report. They taught me how to write for television. I put the whole thing together. And he took me by the hand to the general manager at News 12 New Jersey. He says, "Hire this guy. He's really good." With no experience, I got hired. And that was my first job in television. I kid you not. That is how I got into television. Because somebody believed in me. And that is really what I want to bring forth, is that there have always been people along the way. And that's the part of my faith that I talked about before, that there's always been someone along the way. And I got my first job at News 12, as I mentioned, and I wasn't good at all. My first live shot was so humiliating. I hope it never comes up and goes on social media or on the internet. But as time went on, there were people who were patient and they taught me. And it was really 1996 and the crash of TWA's flight that was flying out of JFK. You guys remember when it crashed in the Atlantic? And I was chosen to go cover that for News 12. And I went there and I covered it and I did a great job. And it was when I got back the next day, once again, a note from my general manager. Walt, you've become a fine TV reporter. And I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so it's been, once again, an incredible ride. I'm so grateful to be up here. I can't believe it's been this long. I'm amazed that I'm still in the industry. And it's been an honor every single step of the way. And once again, it is what I want to do for the rest of my career. Thank you.